folks, I'm L.A. Little, and this is your daily TA Wrap, where we take a look at these markets and we do it from a neoclassical perspective, each time asking ourselves, what happened today? And what does it tell us about the coming ones? I do this show 4 times a week, Monday through Thursday, live at 9 o'clock Eastern Time here from the base of the Rocky Mountains, the beautiful ones. Well, folks, we had an interesting day. I've got the gold chart up. You know, last night I was talking about it looked like it wanted to go lower. Well, it did. It came right into that bar. This was the bar I was talking about, the swing point high over here it was trying to get to. 12 million shares over there. You hit it this morning with 8 million, 8.7, and you look at this and you don't see that it hit it. Well, it hit it pre-market because gold trades pretty much 24 hours a day, 6 days a week. Not quite 6, but almost 6. It was trading this morning pre-market. GLD was trading. You could pick it up into that high, flips around, nice big surge. The story was that Russia, Ukraine, that's what's driving this safety play, I guess. But I think more what's driving it is you come down here and you tested. You couldn't get underneath it and stay underneath it. Actually, you tested in this big bar is what was happening, and you flipped around. It's going to go back up here and try to get back over this this gap area, or at least into that gap area. The other thing it was really testing here that we've talked about before is this big bar down from March 31st. These markets are always trying to tell you what they want to do. And it's 3 days in a row here you hit that low. And I'm talking about the March 31st low, and maybe it'd be easier if I just draw it in here. That low there, you're hitting it. You hit it 3 times. You can't take it out. You open up down there again today, and you open into that big bar it's trying to get to. That is your support zone. You can see it with the green here on the TA Today charts. Flips it around, right? Takes back off. It's going to come back up into that resistance zone. So if you're able to, take advantage of that, great. If not, well, you always time to learn, right? There's always a opportunity to learn. All right, let's look at what happened today. I wanted to start with that because I didn't want to forget it, because I know we talked about it last night. Industrials were flat. I don't think I remember a 0-0 day, but it was flat today. 16,501.85. That's pretty amazing on the dot. And what we have, S&Ps tack on 3 1/4, 1878.61. The composite tacks on 21. Now remember, last night Apple reported, right? Some people call them blowout earnings. They weren't blowout earnings. They were good earnings. Very low expectations. Stock has been beaten down. They get an 8% pop. Apple is about 23% of the weighting of the NDX. So what's going to happen? The NDX is going to get pushed higher. You also got Facebook, which is valuation-wise not nearly as big, but importance-wise, social media space, right, is important. It's the new gadget out there, right? And Facebook reports. Facebook has decent earnings. They have an issue with the CEO leaving, though. I mean the CFO leaving, and they couldn't even hold their gains today. Apple held them. They were up there all day long. If we pop over and look at Apple, Apple's over the top. And that kind of a move should not only move the rest of the market, but move it big. And so we saw some of that, right, with the NDX up 34, almost 1%. But folks, they were up 1.7% to start the morning. And then they sold it straight off. And if you want to look at what I'm talking about, if I pop over here and throw the NDX in and then do a 1 day, you're going to see this huge straight off spike lower, right? Then it comes right back up, does an ABCD structure on the way up intraday, and then that's it. That's all I could do. But you talk about selling into strength. It was a vicious sell-off to start the day. We're talking about from 36.12 to 35.55. Folks, that's a huge move. That's almost 60 points. 60 points on one contract in the S&P on the futures is going to garner you about $1,200, whereas that usually trades about $200 a day, maybe $3. So you can get a sense of how big that move was. It wasn't small. Spiked down, and when I look at something like that, I ask myself, okay, what was going on? That's folks taking the opportunity to get out of their positions, right? Tech has been beaten up. That's an opportunity. They take the opportunity to get out. Gold up $8. Bonds actually ended up again today. We'll look at those in a minute. The dollar is down slightly. Oil, copper, most of the metals, most of the commodities up again. All right, let's go to the market. Let's look at the indexes to start with. And actually, while we're here, let's quickly take a peek at Facebook. So Facebook can't trade back over that. Ends down on the day. Volume pretty heavy. Not what you want to see if you're invested in that. All right, let's pop the indexes. So let's start with the S&P 500. Okay, so the S&P, and every night I try to give you the context because not everybody watches this every night. And maybe some of you are new because we're getting a lot of folks stopping by to see what we're all about here. S&P, when you break a swing point low, and in this case the S&P broke 3 of them last week, right? That's called a retest regen as it comes back. It tries to retest the bar, the swing point low bar that it broke, and regenerate back in the direction of the break. And so you spike up, right? And the idea is that when you get up there, you're going to come back down and regenerate to the lower side. The market is a series of tests. Well, what was the test? The test was here, and it gets over it. Okay, well, that's okay. Let's see if it comes right back. Nope. Stretches higher, and now it's hanging. Okay, so if I look at the index, the S&P index, I can't construe that as anything but bullish behavior. It gets over the breakdown bar. It will not retest, regenerate lower. That says, or it has written all over it, I want to go back up and test these highs again. So when you think about it that way, it's like, okay, the S&P is telling me it wants to test higher. Okay, let's go to the next one. Let's go to, actually, let's take a peek at the Dow, because the Dow is doing basically the same thing. It's up there trying to test the highs. Looks a little bit different, but same sort of scenario. Now let's go to the weaker ones, and let's take the NDX, which had the huge strength today, and take a look at it. So the NDX, it doesn't have swing point lows to play with because it never got a break of the last one down here. So what is it doing? It's trying to come back up into resistance and get over the breakdown bar. That's the key bar. That's the April 10th bar. Top of it's 35.99, 24.2 sitting on it. What do? You do 21.3, so less volume. You get over it, you get back under it, right? That's a failure, and that's on a day with Apple contributing 8% gains and weighing 23% of the index. That tells you there's a lot of selling in the rest of that index, right? It wasn't like Apple carried anybody. Apple used to carry this market up or down. No more. That's not what's happening anymore. That's a failure. S&Ps, they've been relatively strong comparatively, still look fine. NDX fails. Let's look at the broader IXIC. So this is the NASDAQ composite. Same sort of scenario, doesn't break out the bottom, trying to get over the swing point highs, can't even get to that high, doing less volume. It does have a little bit more volume than it did yesterday, so it can try again. The last 2 days, so it can come up and try again. But again, that that's kind of a failure to me. And then we go look at our friend the Russell. Now, the scenario we were talking about with the S&P was true of the Russell too. The Russell had a swing point low trying to do a retest regen, right? Comes back up. You know, this is kind of the key bar. What does it do? Does not regenerate, gets over the high, and then tries to get into this breakdown bar. So, okay, you're over it. Very next day, you're back in it. You're back in it again today. You're backing back down. That also doesn't look very good. So when I look at these indexes, I've got the strong ones still strong. I got the weak ones still weak. It hasn't changed. That's been the story for 2 months. It's still the story. Okay, so I can make an argument, and I made this argument last night. The best thing this market could do would be just go sideways for 3 or 4 bars. Right? I mean, if I'm bullish, I just want this thing to hang here, build up a few more bars in here somewhere, right? And then make its run, right? Because then you can actually get some stops to build up here of size that when you push through there, you don't fall right back. The only way this market's going to really take off, right, and make a run is if you get enough shorts up there that have to contribute to the run. Otherwise, it's just not going to happen. Not in this market, not right now, in my opinion. That is the best scenario. You can still construe this action that way. It doesn't look that bad, right? The give back is not that big yet. If you start seeing this thing get back up underneath here, though, that's a totally different scenario, right? But we're not there. And if I look at the S&Ps, they're still hanging at the highs. So, all is not lost. You can still argue this market both ways. And when you can do that, you have to go try to find other things that will give you a hint as to what is going to happen. And let's bring in the bonds. So the bonds, they run opposite typically of the rest of the market. Today, they try to sell them down again. No, they're not going to sell them down. They take them back up again. They're going to get up here and try to test these highs again. And so the bonds, if they do extend higher, as I've said many times over the last 3, 4, 5 weeks, if these guys want to go higher, that tells me the market wants to go lower. And so this is going to be a key test as it gets up there. And it looks like it's going to try to do it right away. Tomorrow's Friday. I don't know that it's going to do it tomorrow, but next week maybe is the time. I believe the Fed has a meeting next week. We got 2 or 3 more weeks of big earnings. We had more earnings tonight. And again tonight, we got juice earnings, right? We got Microsoft reports. Microsoft is up about 2.5%, 3%. They're right up here at these highs. Again, the other one that reported was all over the map was Amazon. Amazon does what Amazon always does, and that is Amazon just barely makes some money, and they keep spending it like crazy. And so Amazon was up about $12 by the end of the night. That put it up around 34, put it into these 2 bars. Amazon's not going anywhere, so I don't think, it can boost it for a while, but Amazon has a long way before it goes anywhere. Or let's go to the sectors though. TLT keeps saying, hey, we're going to try to come back. Last night we talked about the IYT did a 2-bar reversal. Well, today it trades higher, but then gives it all up. Another 2-bar reversal again tonight is the way that reads. That still looks like a failure. XLB was trying to get over this swing point higher, or at least trying to get up there and test it. XLB also rolls over and is trying to come back. Now the one that won't give it up is the XLE. The XLE last night wouldn't give it up. Tonight it goes over, back under, but it has slightly more volume. So it's still not a 2-bar reversal, although it is a failure off yesterday's bar. We'll see if they try to trade higher tomorrow. I was looking at the OIH as an indication. It does an over-under as well, but same thing, more volume. So that says that thing can test a little bit more. So the all sector, XLE, the integrateds, the services, they all still can test higher. So they're not quite done. We talked about the industrials trying to test the highs. They almost got there. Top was 53.49. They got to 53.39, pushed 11.8 into 14.9. If that's not a failure tonight, and it did have more volume, it will be tomorrow, it looks like. So XLI is about done. So you got the XLE still pushing, but barely. You got the IYT that wants to come back. XLB's rolling over. If we go to the next one that we talked about last night, that was a key one, is the XLF. Gets over it, tests that breakdown bar, top of is 2207, gets over it, back under it. That's a failure. That one wants to come back finally. Okay, it's not a 2-bar reversal, it has slightly more volume, but it's definitely a failure off of this. We may trade a little bit up in the morning, but that one looks like it wants to fail and come back. So if you're getting the drift here, I don't see anything that tells me the sectors want to go higher. XLK, the other one we talked about last night, test that high 36.50, gets over it, back under it, fails, wants to come back, right? One by one, they all saying the same thing. Makes me believe that the NDX, the IXIC, the Russell are the ones that are telling us the truth right now. This market wants to trade back down again. So even though we made the great run one more time, which seems to always be the story with this market, up here hanging at the highs, doesn't want to give it up, well, it's going to be forced to give it up is the way it looks to me. At least short term. Intermediate term, you know, if you look at these guys, they don't look that bad. The problem, as we know, is going to be if they come down and they come down deep versus a small pullback. Because if I put this on a weekly and I just pulled the NDX up to have something up, you got a swing point low here. It's on multiple time frames. If this comes back, it's going to break it on multiple time frames. So the story here is if this does roll over and does get some momentum on the downside, it still could turn ugly, and that's what you're facing if you're trying to trade this on the long side. That's why it makes it so hard to be very bullish here. Not to mention MTTFs that are extreme. All right, so you know, if you ask me where I sit and what I think, that's what I think. That's where I sit. Let's go look at the international markets and see what they're doing, because I haven't looked at them this week. So let's pop over and just pop through these because I haven't looked at them in a while. So let's go to our friends down south in Australia, see what these guys are up to. So new highs, popping to new highs. This is on a daily, and nothing wrong with that. Suspect, probably comes back within 6 bars, but you know, straight up move. Tells you that everybody wants their resources again. Brazil. Let's see if Brazil, another resource country, can muster another move. And no, they can't. And Brazil has all sorts of domestic issues in terms of political strife. You got the World Soccer Tournament coming up here pretty soon. I don't even know if they finished their stadiums yet, but I don't know what they're doing. My friends up in Canada, Toronto Exchange. New highs, hanging up there. Gotta love cheap money. And let's see, what else do we have? So let's go over to Asia now. Let's start with the Taipei. Taiwanese market makes its new high, leaves volume up there, comes off with some volume though. That's, let me see. So you go over the high, you don't have... You don't have enough volume, and now you fail. It's going to test this low. It's going to come back farther, 88.98. Indonesia, and so still pushing. So that one still looks good. Japan, in my opinion, is in a world of hurt. They're still range bound in that lower range we talked about, the lower half, and that still looks like it's going to come back and do some more testing to the downside. Hong Kong was showing a lot of heaviness, and didn't get a volume update today, so I can't tell if that's a continuation or not. Still looks like it's going to try to get into this low. It's deep enough into the bar. It's 22,297. So that also looks like it wants to pull back a little bit more based on the price situation. Let's see if the other one. Just not getting volumes on these guys, huh? All right, so that one's an under over as well, and that one's about where it should bounce. So this is Shanghai should try to get a bounce tonight. And we'll see what that bounce looks like. They left volume at the top, so you got to think you're going to get back up there at some point. Doesn't look too bad. A little bounce, see what the bounce looks like. Okay, Europe, the CACs. And I go through these because the world markets really are interconnected. And a lot of people don't appreciate that as much as they need to. 44.9654. They get over it. They have more volume. Right? They fell on price, but they have volume. They're going to test it again. So that test probably tomorrow. FTSE. FTSE was trying to get over a swing point high. Okay, so that volume, man, I'm just not getting any volumes tonight. 67.06, and they close under it. I don't know what the volumes were, so I don't know if it's a volume. I don't know if it's a complete failure or not, unfortunately. Let me see if I can get some volumes on these. I need the volumes. Bear with me a second while I do that, and we'll look at the DAX as well and see what it's doing. So let me pop into here and see if we can get a volume read on these guys. Maybe the volumes just didn't show when we did the updates to the database. If you got some questions or you'd like to ask some questions, you can email me at tat@tatoday.com, or you can text message me 303-912-9110. If you are logged in, you can type in messages and ask me that way. Just let me know what you want to look at, what time frame and direction you're trying to point, and I'll see if I can help you out. All right, let me see if I can get these quotes in here today. See if these quotes will show up, or at least the volumes. I got the quotes, don't have the volumes. All right, FTSE, let's see if it shows up now. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so I just didn't have them out when we ran. So FTSE, that's a failure. That's a failure on price and on volume. Let's go back to the CACs. Oh, we had volume on that. It was the Hong Kong and the HSI. Let's go look at those real quick and see if we got volumes. Yep. Okay, so you come under, back over, less volume. That's going to try to bounce. That's the Shanghai. So that is a bounce, and it's set up that way to bounce. And same thing here. So we should try to. Asia should try to trade higher tonight, for the most part. Australia, yeah, they could push a little bit higher. Taipei wants to come in. The rest of them look okay. So CACs wants to test again. FTSE failure. Let's see what the DAX looks like. Wow, that's a wide bar. Okay, so that looks just like the CACs. It's going to try to test some more tomorrow. So Europe looks mixed tomorrow because they open like 6 hours before us, 6.5 hours, or 6 hours. They will, if they open up higher, which I think is a good chance, by the time we open, they may already have failed and come back. So Asia higher, Europe going to do some more testing, starting to try to fail, may fail by the time we open up. So what does that tell me? Well, given the sector, given the indexes, I think we get some sort of a flat opening tomorrow, but then maybe some pressure by the end of the day. You know, you still got the exogenous news. It was blamed on Russia today, that big spike down I showed you on the NASDAQ on the markets when they started out today. They tagged it on Russia. Well, yeah, maybe so, but that's, you know, I don't know that Russia did anything different. You know, a lot of times they try to find reasons for things and they just make up stuff. And you know, in my opinion, that's probably what they were doing. Let me see what kind of questions y'all have here. So please look at CLMS short term. All right, let's see what we got here. So CLMS, these guys, asset management company. Well, like anything else, when you go sideways, that's a good thing. You know, after a big push up, and get some bad quote here. We'll have to fix that. Let me see what it looks like on the monthly. Yeah, the monthly has the same thing. So I'll have to clean these quotes up because I can't get a good one. Let's pop over to a different quote system, see if we can get the right ones here. I want to see what the weekly looks like on it. CLMS. And yeah, so it's just range trading. And we pull it back a little bit farther. Yeah, that looks pretty good. So the only issue is you've already extended here. Let me see, 934. It's about $3, 1367. It's already done its ABCD structure, right? So when you see this, and this is on the monthly, right? It's already done just about what it wanted to do, you know, in terms of the structure. So when I see that says, okay, on this time frame, you know, it's already done. If I pull it back, put it on the weekly again, pull it in, you got the same thing on the weekly. It looks like it's done, right? And if I pull it back in now to your time frame, which is the monthly, and look at it, right? I've got the big spike up, right? That usually defines a range for an extended period of time when you get that kind of bar, and that's exactly what you got. So now, going back to the TA Today chart so that we can see the swing point lows here, you got 3 of them lined up. My take here is you can't do much of anything with this because if these break, you're going to be right down here before you know it. So what I would do is I would wait, let the stops build up here, see if it wants to break this low, and then you buy it down in this area. That's the way I would trade it. If it starts to break out to the top side, you know, then you could try to trade it to the top side. I would not short this. I'd only buy the long side. It's a one-sided range trade is how I look at them. And that top is the one that's going to get tested at some point. So what you want to do, that's up around 1360, you want to buy it as close as you can to this bottom down here. And if these swing point lows break, you'll come right back to it more than likely, and you can pick it up. So just monitor it and wait on that setup is the way I would try to trade it. HY short term, let's see what that one looks like. So these guys are these chips, materials, short term. Well, this one's hard to read. Just looks like a big range, doesn't it? My goodness, what's happening to all of these? I've got to go look at the database and see if it was like everybody got a penny quote all of a sudden. Hopefully that's not on all the stocks. That would be horrible. All right, let's go back to the other charts here and get a weekly HY. It's like today we got penny quotes on everything and it blew out all the longer ones. All right, I wanted to go to a yearly is what I was trying to do. Okay, you got the same thing. You're doing a retest regen. Okay, so that, when I look at it on a weekly, that's a good setup. Now, go back to the daily. So if I pop back over to the daily, yeah, I think it's not bad. The thing is, right now, you just have to realize that anything you're doing, you got to give it more room than you normally would. So when I look at this bar, I've got to give it at least back to here. Okay, so when I say that, I say, okay, I got to give it to there. Well, wait a minute. I'm going to break 2 swing point lows to get back there. Well, that's probably going to push it even faster to the downside if that happens, right? So I'm going to have to probably give it more room than I want when I think about it from that perspective. So then I go back to the weekly. Let me pop that weekly chart back up. And then I look at it one more time and say, okay, where can it go to? And I see this price point, 87.50. So 87.50 is down this deep. That's where I'd try to buy it. So I would let this drift in. I'd let it see if it can break these swing point lows and pop all the way down to something like 87.50 on no volume, and that's a great buy. Right? That would be the best place. If you're going to buy in stages though, right, you can nibble at it as it comes into this big bar. That's what it's doing right now. Because it may not come down here, right? It may not break these swing point lows. So this is where you start it, right? So if I'm buying this or trying to trade this, I try to buy in a little bit here with the acknowledgement that I'm going to have to buy more down here potentially, right? And if you come into it with that trading plan, you'll probably do fine. All right, my time is way over. I wasn't paying attention here. Looks like I got some work to do after I close shop. Folks, thanks for joining me. Tomorrow's Friday. It's been an okay week. Hasn't been a bad week. Earnings have done what they needed to keep this market hanging. Looks a little tired to me, though. I think we're going to get a pullback here pretty quick. Have a great night. Take care of yourself. I'll see you next time. Until then, I'm LA. This is, and it was, your daily TA wrap. See you next time, folks. Good night.